have never been done before.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route to do. We the people are free. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited.
Howdy, folks. How are ya? And what a wonderful time we've had over the last few days. I hope you have not had the trials and tribulations that many others have suffered, particularly those that have been affected by the East Coast low that happened down through New South Wales, and I can tell you into Queensland as well over the last couple of days. I believe that most of the rain now is offshore. There have been some pretty big totals for New South Wales anyway, some pretty big totals down around Nowra and Jervis Bay. I think the Illawarra copped a fair flogging water-wise through there with over 100 mils in many places. And, of course, our wonderful folks at the Good Samaritan Donkey Sanctuary, I'm sure, copped it all over again. The East Coast low brought with it some cyclonic winds, and that was, in fact, a large part of the reason why I couldn't get a show together last night, because yesterday afternoon, some of the gusts of wind that we had here were, well, really significant. Now, some of the measured ones that didn't happen right here where I am, but very close to here, were at 80 to 100 knots. And I can tell you that I felt every bit of that at certain times yesterday, with a large amount of destruction happening on the property. Thankfully, nothing on the bus or off the bus, as the case might be. But there has been a lot of stuff picked up and thrown, and not just the stuff that's been thrown has been destroyed, but what it's hit has been destroyed. And one of the tragedies of what happened was my Starlink cable got severed, so to speak. So I've had a bit of a play with it, and I've tried to join it. So it's sort of working. We're not on it tonight, but it's sort of working. But I lost everything yesterday. I had no way of connecting a show out. So that's why last night there was nothing. The wind died down a little bit today, I have to say. It certainly wasn't as strong for as long today, and it seems to be dying, although there's still gusts coming in now. So, I mean, I'm in the southeast of Queensland, and those gusts were coming up through the Great Dividing Range and the valleys from New South Wales. So I imagine that there are a lot of trees down, a lot of devastation in certain parts of the mid-north coast and down through the Hunter Valley. I just hope that the Donkey Sanctuary got through it all, and I might just flick over. Sandy's probably in the chat, and I haven't seen her poke her head up yet. But I do trust that all things are going well. I hope to speak to Sandy tomorrow, actually. We would be good to tell her that we have another lottery about to go off. Well, I can tell her that we do have another lottery about to go off. That one. It's a pretty cool lottery. You win yourself $750, and the place to go and get those tickets is right there in that little crawl going across the bottom of the screen. It's our merchandise site, merch.vofhq.com, and click across on the top link that says Sanctuary 750. There's less than 200 tickets left. And if we could get those sold between now and tomorrow, it would be wonderful to have a chat with Sandy saying, hey, listen, your next donation's on the way. So I really would like to be able to help the Donkey Sanctuary as much as possible. And if you follow them at all on Facebook, you will notice at the moment there is a huge amount of content that they're putting up, really, really good content about the goings-on the property. And there is, some great examples of exactly why our support, your support of the Donkey Sanctuary is so important. So go and like the Good Samaritan Donkey Sanctuary and go and check out some of their shorts. Some pretty cool stuff that goes on there every day. And Sandy, Baz, and the rest of the team, there is quite a large team that goes to support what at the moment is a bit over 100 donkeys, but is growing in the near future rather rapidly. So, and quite large. So if you can help out the Donkey Sanctuary and you wouldn't mind winning $750, it's easy. $2 a ticket. Just go to that merch site and merch.vofhq.com and click on the Sanctuary 750 link and put in your details. We will contact you when the computer draws your name out. It'll ask you for a few details. You'll have to contact Vince and he will facilitate the cash into your account as soon as the bank allows it. So it's usually same day, but if it happens sort of on a Saturday or something, it might have to wait until the Monday until the transfer happens. But we would really like to be able to tell Sandy tomorrow we have got another donation coming her way. And like I say, less than 200 tickets left in that lottery. So please, folks, go and help out there if you can. It would be absolutely magnificent. Now, speaking of helping out, if you are in Melbourne tomorrow, I would love if you, and I know this is probably a big ask for many people, it's late in the tooth or long in the tooth, or late in the day, and to get you organised to go into Melbourne City tomorrow might be a big ask. But if you happen to be able to spare a little bit of time tomorrow, then 11:30 at 210 Williams Street in Melbourne, that is the Supreme Court of Victoria building, courtroom 15 at 11:30. Doris, now, for those of you who follow Truth Seeker TV, Doris is one of the big contributors there, and she's been on this program a couple of times too. Now, she is fighting Westpac at the moment over her house. Now, I can't tell you what she's going to present, but there is there's some significance to this event tomorrow, this interlocutory hearing. God, that's a mouthful. I'm glad I didn't have to read that a lot. Interlocutory hearing. I can't say it. There you go. Anyway, this is to ascertain the validity of some of the claims that Doris is making regarding the actions that Westpac and some of their co-conspirators, I'm going to call them, may have been involved in. Now, Doris has some significant evidences that she wishes to present, and these bodies of evidence are significant. Now, they will show and determine, they will show a great deal of detail into the systems that the banks use when it comes to repossessing homes. It will also show a great deal of interesting things about the system they use to provide the loans for these homes, how that's secured, and certain other things. I'm sure Doris will be releasing further details, and I hope tomorrow morning to be able to have a quick chat with somebody who will be at the court in support of Doris, Sherry, also another Truth Seeker TV gal, and one of the five sisters. So she will hopefully, if time and the court allow, so to speak, I'll be able to get a few words with her before they go in. But it is 11:30 tomorrow morning at the Supreme Court in Victoria. That's at 210 Williams Street in Melbourne. Courtroom number 15, I believe there are only 40-odd seats there. So be early and go and help Doris, support Doris. If you have ever wondered about this whole business of having your house repossessed from you and for various different claims either the bank or council might put against you, this case is of interest to you. It's a big deal. And if things go as Doris would hope tomorrow, and there's no guarantee that they will, we all know that the courts are captured. However, this interlocutory, you know what I'm trying to say, that hearing is going to go a long way to giving weight to the body of evidence that she will present. And the more people there to hear and support her in the delivery of that evidence, the better. So if you can, please, tomorrow, Supreme Court in Melbourne, 210 William Street, and go and support Doris. You'll find a whole bunch of loud girls there to help her, I'm sure. They'll stand out in the crowd. And I would caution the Victorian government and Westpac, you should never piss off a Polish lady. Not in the way you've done it. My God. Good on you, darling. You are doing such a good job, Doris, and I can't wish you and any more but the best of luck. It's not really luck tomorrow. It comes down to preparation, and I know how much preparation you've put into this. It's not days, it's not hours, it's not weeks or months. This has, well, it is months. It's basically a whole year. And Doris, for those of you, and if you are considering going down this route yourself, fighting an eviction notice that's been issued unlawfully to you, I'm sure Doris will tell you she's done the better portion of a 7-year legal degree in the last 10 months. It has been all consuming, and that is because these bastards make you cross every T, dot every I, and then make you explain the spelling of every word that you have in there. I'm overemphasizing, but you get the idea. What has to happen in these kind of motions that Doris is putting forward is the court is testing her and her knowledge of the law and which kinds of law. Now, it becomes important which kind of law, because Doris will be able to show, as many others have previously, that there are a number of different types of law in operation, and that's not right. There is also, more than anything in operation, bloody fraud, and she's caught them at it. So good luck. Supreme Court tomorrow, 11:30, and God love you, Doris. All power to you. You'll be in my prayers tonight, as you are just about every other night. So I hope that it goes very, very well. And like I say, hope really isn't a thing, but preparation, if preparation and effort are to count, then you are a lay down misere tomorrow, my darling, to have a very, very good day. And it will be July 4th. There is a lot of changing things happening on July 4th. We'll get to talk about more of those in the near future. I did want to mention about the forcible fornication of Victoria. It took me a little while to come up with that alliteration tonight. The forcible fornication of Victoria. My God, you people in Victoria, you... I feel so sorry for you. Well, at least I feel sorry for the ones who tried to vote sensibly and somehow still managed to get a Labor government back in. And this latest piece of work that is running the bastardry in the Labor Party in Victoria, Jacinter Allan, has come out. Well, today there was a bit of a backfire. Actually, I don't know if it was today. It might have been a couple of days ago. Jacinter Allan has finally announced that a major backdown is going to happen in her push to get homes off gas. They are dumping the decision to force households to buy electric heaters. And that plan was also to stop gas installation onto properties. You wouldn't be able to have any gas appliances in your house, no hot water, no cooking, and nothing like that. Of course, we are one of the major LPG, liquid petroleum gases, liquid natural gases, LNG, producers in the world. We don't see any money out of it. We give it away. We give it away because our government is too stupid or too corrupt, is more like it. It's not stupid. We can't keep saying, oh, God, they're stupid people. They are not stupid people. They are some of the most evilly intelligent fucktards God ever gave breath to. But we still have to deal with them. And deal with them we shall. Anyway, there's more going on in Victoria. What a wonderful place to live. Now, I know Greensboro. I've not lived in Greensboro, but I've had friends who've lived in Greensboro for many years. It's a beautiful northern suburbs of Melbourne suburb. Leafy green, beautiful family area. Used to be, I don't know if it still is, quite large blocks and all that kind of thing with usually beautifully manicured lawns and gardens. It was truly a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful area. Well, the people have been a bit shocked to realise that there is a new high-rise social housing development coming to Greensboro. It's going to be 17 stories high, and it's going to be for low-income earners who are finding it hard to find housing anywhere. Now, I'm a low-income earner. I don't know that I'd like to go and live in a place like that. But I suppose there are many low-income earners, kids, all that kind of thing that impact you, and you need to have a roof over your head. However, nobody in Greensboro has been consulted about this. The state government have forced it through. This is another example of top-down governance, where you will do what we say. We will not ask. We will not consult. We will just do what we want. God, Victoria, I don't know what you need to do to get yourselves out of this, because the state is so clearly captured. And unfortunately, it's probably not possible for the vast majority of you to just pack up and move. So what are the next steps? Well, Jacinta Allan thinks she's got that idea sorted out as well, because Victoria is about to get its own version, its very own version of the voice to Parliament. But oh no, it won't be the voice to Parliament. It'll be something a bit different to that, I promise.
I think what's important is let's take a step back. Let's take a step back and reflect on the difference a treaty will make in terms of making our city and state fairer and better for everyone. And that's because the treaty process and outcome is grounded in that pretty simple common sense approach that when you listen to people who are affected by policies and programs, when you involve them in the processes, you get better outcomes. You get better outcomes for everyone. And when you consider on whether it's housing, homelessness, health measures, education measures, we know that Indigenous people here in this state continue to be significantly behind the rest of the population, and that's not fair for all of us, but particularly for our Indigenous population. The key difference to the referendum that was put nationwide a couple of years ago is that was changing the Constitution. This is not changing the Victorian Constitution. It's simply taking a common sense approach, sitting the First Peoples Assembly, an ongoing representative body, into our existing parliamentary structures. But the significant change is it'll be a body where we will be listening, taking on their advice.
Does that mean that every significant body that's been instigated by these bastards previously has just been a show pony? They haven't listened to that advice at all. Every Indigenous advisory position in, well, call it the Australian governance history, but Victorian in particular. There have been a lot of them. I remember Jeff Clark. He was a great government advisor for Aboriginal people from Framlingham down in my old stomping ground area. I think he's in jail at the moment. Maybe he's just got out. I don't know. He has had a few problems over the years with jail and misappropriated bits and pieces, but he's also had more jail problems with the way he's treated women. That'd be one of the people that was advising the state government for many years in Victoria, probably not anymore. I can't imagine that the ones that are advising the state government and will be sitting on this, council, whatever it is, that is now going to be able to inject itself. I can't imagine how false those Indigenous representatives are, how controlled, how corporatized. My God, Victoria. I know a bit of land. If you all had a few bucks, we could put that together, buy that land, go and live there happily ever after. It's not quite the size of the state of Victoria, but it'd do. Got to tell you, unbelievable what's going on in Victoria. And I know so many Victorians are simply shaking their heads at it, because what can you do? I see today, and not that this is a terribly bad thing, I suppose, but there's been another thing put out in Victoria today that Victoria now plans to be India's biggest partner in everything from housing and education through to technology and services moving forward. Now, I mean, I can't say that's a bad thing because it's going to improve services, one would hope. But that would also infer that the training of these people is going to be improved and the oversight of these people is going to be improved. And the cultural differences will be addressed. And we know, not just Indian, but every other culture that we seem to be importing into this country at the moment, whether it be Somalian or some other Afrikaan or some other form of poor soul who's coming out of an area of whether it be war or famine or drought or all of the above. Australia seems to have the handout, welcoming handout, with a bloody big welcoming handout once you're accepted through the gate. The watering down of the Australian people has been underway for a couple of decades now, but we are now at a point where that influx is in overdrive and should be plainly obvious to every Australian, and it should concern a great many of you. Unfortunately, I don't know that it is. And I had a conversation today with somebody here on the property that was shaking their head as much as I do about, well, you know, how can we fix this? What more can we do to fix this? And I've got to admit, this guy seems a little early to the, or a little late to the arguments in many cases, but is certainly on the right track. And I explained that what we fight, and I'm sure you understand this every day, we fight the brainwashing. We fight that, oh, you can't go against government. Oh, you can't fight the man. Oh, you can't push back. Well, I'm sorry. Yes, you can. And that's what the end of my show tells you every night. That little clip that I play at the end of this show every night is the speech that worries them. All right? Because we are the ants. And if we do rise up, there is nothing that will stop us. Now, we'd like to do that in the most bloodless way possible. But these filthy pigs that have taken over this nation and most of the others in the world are not going to give it up easily. And over the next few days, we might see some of that fight extend here. July 4th is meant to be a very big celebration of independence in America. But Donald Trump has been working on a global agenda now for many years. And a lot of the chatter is saying that July 4th will trigger a new beginning for America. Interesting to note that today's financial media report the biggest downturn in the American dollar in its history, well, at least since 1973. An interesting year, don't you think? So the biggest downturn in the US dollar since 1973. Go back and have a look about what happened with the US dollar in 1973. And of course, there was a few interesting things that happened with Australia in 1973 too. And you might find with a little bit of investigation that the two are linked in certain ways. Could this have something to do with the corporatization of Australia, the ownership of Australia by America? I would encourage you to go and have a look. Go and have a look. What else is going on in the world? Well, we've got some madness happening in various different parts. I haven't had the opportunity today to catch up on which volcano has blown up where or what part of the earth has decided to relocate itself to a different part of the earth. If there have been earthquakes today, I haven't heard about them. But there are certainly warnings coming out of Japan. Now, I don't know if you just get sick and tired of me saying a different country every night and it just sort of like water off a duck's back rolls off you. But I've got to say, in the last 2 weeks, I've talked about more places and more countries in more parts of the world that are blowing up, falling off the side, not mountains falling off the side of mountains, earthquakes, large and small, swarms, volcanic eruptions, all of this in the last couple of weeks. Are you going to tell me that this is normal? Okay, we might get the odd volcano here and there. We might get the odd earthquake there and there. But seriously, in the last 2-3 weeks, even a month, a lot of that is coming to is being made self-evident. But thankfully, we're a little separated from that in Australia, touch wood, with faults and fault lines and all that sort of stuff. But remember, folks, Newcastle copped a flogging in an earthquake many years ago, a bit over 25 years ago, maybe, might be a bit further than that. It was I want to say it was a 7-point or maybe even an 8-point something. that was centered out in the Hunter Valley. But a lot of people lost their lives. A lot of people lost their homes in Newcastle. Australia is not immune to earthquakes. We've had little rumbles all over the place. People in Melbourne feel them all the time. Some might suggest that could be from the tunnels underneath. But that's another story for another night. Let's keep going. I'm going to show you something that I would think you might be remotely familiar. If you're not familiar with that, then let me tell you, that is the Israeli flag. Now, why is that important? Well, you're seeing the Israelis making the news in all sorts of ways and means at the moment. A lot of quiet time at the moment between Israel and Iran, you might have noticed. There is, as far as I'm aware, been no flinging of rockets or missiles from one side of Iran to Israel or vice versa. Donald Trump seems to be making some fairly loud statements, direct statements about nobody doing anything stupid. And on the face of it, it appears at this point in time, at any rate, that nobody is doing anything terribly stupid. But is it all coming to an end? I don't know. Don't think we will know until what happens with Ukraine and Russia. Now, Russia have, not that the mainstream media will tell you this, Russia have basically run over Ukraine. There is Zelensky and his small NATO cohort who are still trying to fight a rearguard action, and I think that's more about survival than anything else. However, the mainstream media will be telling you the war is going well, Zelensky's doing great things. Zelensky's people have been taking young men off, all men off the streets. If they see a fella of a certain age walking down the street, he is abducted, knocked out, taken to a base, dressed up, given a gun, and put in the way of the marching forward Russians. They are cannon fodder. These people are being murdered left and right. And Candace Owen released a very interesting podcast yesterday where she made it known that since February of 2024, she's been keeping a bit of a secret. Now, back then, she was doing a detailed expose on Macron's wife, Emmanuel Macron's wife, who, if you aren't awake, isn't a woman, is a man. And she is a Rothschild, or he is a Rothschild. And their age difference is quite significant, 28, 30-something odd years. Now, in her podcast, Candace Owen went into great detail, provided a huge amount of evidence. I think it's a 4-part podcast that really left no doubt as to who Emmanuel Macron's wife really was. And that led her, and would have taken me down the same path, into the realm of grooming. Because this thing has been with Emmanuel Macron since he was 15, since he was a very young boy. And, well, now the truth is coming out. One of the other interesting things that she pointed out in her podcast was that shortly after the last episode of that podcast dropped, she got a phone call from someone at the White House very close to the president who said, look, do you mind just not talking about Emmanuel Macron's wife's penis for a while, please? And she said, well, why would you be asking me this? She was pregnant at the time, so her hormones were going a bit weird, as she admitted. And she took this request pretty badly. The person doing the asking was being pretty nice at the time, but then the next person who rang wasn't being so nice. And that didn't work terribly well either. Eventually, it worked its way through that a phone call came. She was advised to take the phone call, and it was Donald Trump on the end of the phone, where he related the story. At the time, Macron was in Washington. Nobody really knew, but he was in Washington. And he had taken Trump aside and had said, listen, do you know Candace Owen? And Trump said, oh, yes, a very fine lady. Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. And he said, right, well, we wanted to stop talking about my wife's penis because it's really upsetting her. All of these stories, all of this truth. So the reason that Macron was in the USA at the time was to negotiate a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. And Macron used this podcast from Candace Owen to hold up those negotiations. He refused to engage in the negotiations while Candace Owen was exposing his wife's penis. I know it sounds stupid, doesn't it? Really ridiculous. However, they eventually came to an understanding whereby she wouldn't kill the story forever. She would go back, and when she decided that it was time to release that information, everything would form part of that, including the conversation with Donald Trump. He agreed to that to a point. But it was interesting to note, I think for everybody concerned, that a world leader supposedly inclined to help set up ceasefire talks, a peaceful outcome in Ukraine, was in fact willing to send more young men to their deaths because of his wife's penis and the fact that his wife was a bit upset people were talking about it. That's the kind of bloke that leads France. Which sort of makes me wonder a little bit if right about now he isn't out there looking for one of those invisibility cloaks that they invented. Because you got to think that's not a really good story to have going around about you. But yeah, at any rate, the Israelis doing what they do, you get a bit of an eye of the Star of David. Now we've spoken about the history of Israel and the history of Ukraine, also formerly known as Khazaria. Now, the Khazarian Jews were the break-off from the Ashkenazi Jews. The Ashkenazis wound up in what is now Israel, if you like, and the Kenazis wound up in Ukraine. And they've been there for over 800 years. How do we know that? I beg your pardon, more than 800 years. This is an 8th century coin. I'll turn off that crawl so you can actually see the little bit at the bottom of it. But this is an 8th century coin from Khazaria. And I just wonder whether or not you notice any similarities. If you were ever in any doubt about how long and how deep and how far back the history of this goes, I hope that gives you a little bit of an idea. Now, there's one other thing I was going to talk about tonight, and I guess if you're eating at the moment, you might want to pause. I got news about McDonald's. Now, I'm not sure how many of you still partake in McDonald's. I pride myself in not having partaken in some years now. As soon as I became aware of, and it just felt right to me, it rang true to me that there are certain things in their beef that I would prefer not to be eating. And I don't and haven't subscribed in many years. However, new thing has come out regarding the used to be my meal of choice, the quarter pounder meal. So somebody went and tested the meat in the quarter pounder meal and found 1,300 different strands of DNA in it. That's 1,300 differently individual strands of DNA. 1,300 bits of 1,300 individual somethings. Now, they have to substitute the meat with something. You know? They have to substitute the meat with something. So we know that they can grow meat. There are many labs doing it now. There's one in Melbourne, in fact, that is growing steaks that you would be hard-pressed to know aren't steak, like real steak that didn't come from a cow, unless you were told. And I'm not even sure that in Victoria these days you have to be told that this is a fake steak, that this is something grown in a lab and full of God knows what kind of chemicals. But I decided that I'd try and do a little bit of investigation about the hamburger market and just, how many hamburgers do McDonald's sell worldwide every day? And a bit of investigation works out that just under 6.5 million hamburgers is what McDonald's outlets sell across the world every day. Not every one of them, of course, a quarter pounder, but all of them using ground beef, so to speak. So 6.8 million a day. And then I thought, well, what does Hungry Jack's or Burger King do? Burger King do a bit less. They do around about somewhere between 5 and 6 million. And then I thought, well, how many hamburgers are sold in the world per day? And this is where AI may have its uses. It might also be bullshit. It gave me a list of the major fast food chains, 6.5 million for Macca's, Burger King 5.7, Wendy's 20 million, something called Five Guys, 0.4 of a million or 400,000 burgers, same as In-N-Out Burgers. And then they stepped into mid-sized chains. The things like Hungry Jack's, Carl's Jr., that kind of thing. Conservative estimate there on the amount of burgers sold a day, around about 2 million. Independent restaurants selling burger meat or, using that sort of mincemeat every day, around 100 million a day. And then, of course, there is the frozen hamburger market. Now, how many frozen hamburgers are consumed a day? About 10 million frozen hamburgers. So that's pretty wild. The question I probably have is, of the 100 to 125 million hamburgers that are consumed around the world every day, how many cows have to be slaughtered to get enough meat to make 100, 125 million hamburger patties per day? So you put the AI to work and ask about hamburger consumption. Australia rates mid-list with about 1.5 to 2 million hamburgers consumed a day, whereas the United States tops it with about somewhere between 50 and 60 million. China, interestingly enough, behind that with 10 to 12 million, and India with 3 to 5 million. Beef is not a big part of the diet in India. Cows are sacred. So a lot of the hamburgers, I guess, that are eaten over there may not be hamish type burgers. They might be chicken burgers and that sort of stuff. Brazil, 4 to 5 million. Japan, 4 to 5 million. Germany, 3 to 4 million. The UK, 3 to 4 million. So, look, you can see where all this adds up. Now, Asia eats 25 to 30 million burgers a day. America, 65 million a day. South America, up to 10 million. Europe, up to 18 million. The Middle East, up to 7 million. And in Oceania, 2 million. Where are all of these coming from? How many cows need to be slaughtered? Well, it turns out that to make 100 to 125 million hamburgers per day, you need to slaughter 270,000 cows. Now, I know there are some big processing plants in the world. I'd be wondering, how many animals a slaughterhouse could process in a day. You've got to assume that some of them are just set up to process cow. Some others will be set up to process pork, others set up for chicken. A lot of these abattoirs can interchange, and they've got to set up for the different animals, and they run one sort of animal one day and a different sort of animal the next day. But how do you manage to keep up killing 270,000 cows a day? I wonder how many are slaughtered in Australia every day. Now, this is why I don't trust the ChatGPT AI numbers, because I've asked it questions to begin with that will give it an idea of where I'm going. And then I've asked it later for questions to quantify how much meat is required for how many hamburgers. Now, the AI is smart enough to know that if I'm asking that question, I'm probably going to check its maths. So it works the problem out from the other end of the problem. It says, oh, well, I've already told you that the world uses and consumes 100 to 125 million hamburgers a day. So I've got to now figure out how many cows need to be slaughtered for that to, equate to it, assuming, and this is assuming in its calculations that each burger is a quarter pounder. So we know that that's not the case. There probably will be bigger hamburgers. We know there are a lot smaller ones. But that is the average it's worked out on. 270,000 cows a day. How many bits of hamburger, or how much minced meat, ground beef, can you get out of one animal? Well, I guess it depends on the size of the animal, doesn't it? But ChatGPT seems to think you can get about 800 kilos of usable meat out of a cow. Okay. I haven't done the maths yet to figure out how much. Well, I suppose you divide it by 4. 4 8s are 32. Is that right? So you get 32,000 hamburgers out of one cow at a quarter pound each. It's my maths, so don't trust that. Don't ever trust my maths, all right? But it gets you thinking. I don't think there are enough cows in the world to keep up a slaughter rate of 270,000 a day. I don't think there are abattoirs enough in the world to process 270,000 animals a day, given that most of this processed food is being eaten in the Western countries. We would expect to see, well, I don't know. I've never done an abattoir tour here, and I live not too far from a couple of them. But I don't think they do tours. I think they're a bit fussy about who they let in the gates these days, because there have been a number of people over the years who've invaded abattoirs and feedlots and that kind of thing, trying to point out the cruelty that is going on in there. Well, I don't know if there's cruelty in there or not. I've never been involved with the business. I do know people who have worked in abattoirs. They are a certain cut of people, if that's the right way to put it. But good people all the same. And I know I couldn't do the job, not in a heartbreak, not in any way could I work in an abattoir. But I guess we have to be thankful for those that could and can and do, because without it, we would be consuming 100 to 125 million less hamburgers per day. And only 2 million of those for Australians. Yay. How good is that? I guess we could always do the other thing. We could go off and eat the fake meat, but I don't think that's something I could do. I don't like that. 800 to 1,200 hamburgers from a cow, Deep Seeker said. So 8 to 1,200 hamburgers from a cow. Somebody with better math skills is going to need to figure that out than me. And didn't get in the chicken figures. What the? Sorry, I'm just getting back into the chat to figure out what's going on here. Okay, the figure is derived from 2020 global total of about 293.2 million cattle slaughtered annually. Okay. So I still feel the numbers don't add up. And this is an area where they don't like discussing it a great deal. You throw on top of it the evidence that is in the public domain about McDonald's particularly being caught with human meat in their burgers, a slaughterhouse working specifically for McDonald's being raided and caught with limbs on meat hooks and various other bits and pieces. Then there is the rather interesting sludge that they put in with all of their meat that is never fully explained, not even when you go through Hamburger University, which you have to do if you are going to own a McDonald's franchise. The pink sludge is just something you have to add. So, Duckman, what are you telling me here? Commercial size cow steer would be about 600 kilos. It would dress about 300 to 400 kilos of usable meat. The rest is bone, hide, and offal. So, do we think that they might be grinding up the bone and the offal and throwing that into the meat to plump it out some as well? Is that what the pink thing is that they put in there? I don't know. There just seems to be, even based on those figures of Duckman, that doesn't. I don't know. I get very nervous talking about figures and numbers and trying to calculate in my head publicly because it's very embarrassing. I never get it right. So yeah. Anyway, won't be doing that. Yes, we could be eating vaccinated human flesh, as Sunflower has put here. Yep, we could be and don't know it. The only place that I was thinking about this before I came on, where in the world can you go and eat and be guaranteed that what you're eating is actual real beef grown in a paddock on a cow? And I would say Jeremy Clarkson's pub in the Cotswolds, because it is entirely British produce sourced. And not only British produce, but all the meat comes from people who are growing those cows on their properties. Now, in that area, I know from watching the show that they do have a lot of governmental oversight and bureaucracy, just like we do here, which might also mean that those animals have to be jabbed in some way, shape, or form before they can be sold, go to market, or do whatever. And the private abattoir system in the UK, while it has been shut down to an extent, it hasn't been shut down to the extent it has been here in Australia. And I was speaking with some people the other day who run a private abattoir. They help families out in a district. I won't say how big, but it's a reasonable sized district. And they help about 30 different families out with slaughtering stock at different times. Now, it's a family business. It's run off the property and it's run legally off the property. We need more of these to be available. And these people are trying to elicit more of that, more people setting up on their own properties and helping their neighbours do this, or coming together as a co-op and doing it together. There is some expense in setting up an abattoir. It has to be done the right way, and obviously when you're dealing with the meat, it's all got to be done in a sanitary way. So, there are significant costs, but if you can get a group together, then it's worthwhile. Here in Australia, not so much. You're not allowed to do any of that. The government have forced another measure of control upon farmers and upon the market, and that is that you will only be able to sell your livestock for slaughter to an approved abattoir. And of course, who are they? Well, JBS is probably one of the bigger ones here in Australia. JBS was the one named in America some years ago with weird things hanging off their hooks. And they have been brought up around the world in various other trials and court actions over the quality of their meat over the years. Now, that's just one company. I think there are about 5 major global, if you like, owners of. It's a bit like BlackRock and Vanguard. There are all these little companies, particularly here in Australia, who claim they don't have that JBS name or whatever, but they are owned by them, subsidiaries thereof, that kind of thing. So we need to be able to start looking at how we can do a better job with our own properties. Kilcoy Meats. Kilcoy Meats, I don't know. Like I say, I've not been into the abattoirs and had a bit of a look around, but Kilcoy Meats is owned by one of those big conglomerates, yes. I think it was bought out some time ago. A couple of years or more than a couple of years ago now. A lot of money was invested in there now, and I'm pretty sure Kilcoy Meats is one of those guys, one of those slaughterhouses that kills on a rotation. So they'll do beef one day or beef 2 days a week, chickens or pigs another day. I don't think they do chickens there. I think they just do pork and beef. So if you can source your meat from a local farmer, at least it's actually come from the cow. We can't guarantee that the cow hasn't been sprayed on by whatever's falling out of the sky above us, fallen on its grass, eaten the grass and got into it somehow. But you're going to give yourself the best chance of not copping a finger in your food, or anything else for that matter, by trying to source your meat locally. And I know that My Place have been working on deals with local farmers, and the abattoir side of things has been the sticking point. But if we can get through that, then there is a market, the paddock to plate market, that whole thing. Find a paddock to plate person. There are some great ones. There's one in South Australia that Pete from Pinaroo will probably tell you about. And if Vince is in the chat, he's actually spoken to the guy, and I think we'll be talking to him on FBN Media in the not too distant future. There's a great paddock to plate outfit through South Australia who have been, and I actually haven't seen their ads now for a little while. They were all over Facebook for a bit, and haven't seen them, but they were doing huge business and were able to deliver it. Now, that's the other thing that we would have troubles with, and we've always struggled with in many of the My Place deals that have tried to be put together, and that is transportation. Being able to pick up milk, fruit, veg from the various different providers, the growers, and getting it to one place where we, the people, can take advantage of the cheap prices, the paddock to plate kind of prices. Now, this is where I think the farmers need to come into play as well. They're the ones with these trucks. They have trucks, they have the bins, they have the ability to bring produce, but then we need places to store it. We need places to sell it. This requires, all sorts of shit like buildings and parking spots and all that. So, or does it require that, or does it require better coordination so that these markets can happen in open space areas once a month, once every fortnight, whatever it is, once a week? I know that in Melbourne, Doris, who we were speaking about earlier, was hooked up with Darren Bergworth for a long time. They were pulling beautiful fresh fruit out of the Sunraysia area of northern Victoria, apples and oranges. And I got some magnificent oranges from Doris and the girls out of My Place Vic West. Truly, truly magnificent. Sold at a great price, direct from the grower to the My Place family. Now, I'm not sure if Penny's in the chat tonight. I don't think they are. I think they've got a My Place meeting on tonight. So there are quite a few My Places scattered around the place. If you're not part of one, maybe you should consider joining it and getting into the Unity Hub, which is, I think, $5 a month to join. And it will keep you linked in with the My Place community around Australia, which is how you find out where things are, what's available, how it can possibly get to you, and how ideas are born. So I'd love to have you in as part of that as well. Butcher at the Ridge is paddock to plate. Yep, there's a few. There's a couple here on the Gold Coast. Wild Aussie Woman, I will get Vince to get me those details of the people in South Australia. I want to say they're just north of Adelaide. I don't know how far north, but I want to say they're just north of Adelaide, and they have a deal with quite a number of farmers or producers, I think, through South Australia to supply meat all over. Oh my God. Ivan, I'm absolutely horrified. Is this actually... CSIRO have introduced NRMA VAC meat, NMRA, I beg your pardon, sold via Coles and Woolworths. Well, I hope it, and I'm sure it won't be, but I hope that they put a notice up that says this is shit that we've grown in a lab, not in a paddock, because that's absolutely disgusting. There are some good local meat producers. I eat a lot of Warwick meat. It's produced, well, almost locally. And I've got to say, it's pretty hard to fault. It's pretty nice meat. There is also a local butcher here in Canungra who gets some pretty nice meat in from local providers as well. Now, once again, the government are placing all sorts of restrictions on it, but we, the people, need to find a way. And we will. We will. All right, let me just finish scrolling down here to see if there's any other questions or something else that I can quickly answer. I don't think there really is. Contaminated meats from the Landsborough Avoca? Oh, soil's contaminated. Yes, I guess that is the biggest. One of the biggest concerns we have with any of our growing areas, and that is the shit they're putting into our soils. And hopefully, all of that is going to come out into the open and will stop in the very near future. That's what I pray for, and I know that's what many of you pray for, and that's what all of us are working towards. So the battles get harder, the winds blow and blow a whole heap of shit away from you. What do? We get in awe at God's power, and then we go and clean it all up and start again. And I think that's about where we're at. Tomorrow on the world stage, I hope, is going to be a magnificent day. However, July 4 starts here in the world, earliest outside of New Zealand first. And if there is going to be some kind of global regeneration on July 4, then it needs to start at this side of the world. Now, maybe it doesn't. Maybe it doesn't need to start until late tomorrow night, our time, when America gets into July 4 and Donald Trump can raise his flag and blow his trumpet and make whatever announcements that he's got. In fact, he may blow 7 trumpets. And if that's the case, it's going to be a very interesting weekend. So give it up for what it is. With all the chatter, with all the news going on around Ripple. Ripple now is a bank, apparently, and that is big news. Ripple has been given banking status. So there is certainly some interesting things happening in the crypto world, and I hope Vince will join me tomorrow night for a bit of a chat and some insights into all of that, because, well, as you know, he is the crypto god in my part of the world. All right, folks, I'm going to love you and leave you tonight, and going to go and attempt to make myself a steak for dinner, and it will be one of those locally grown ones, I promise you. Have yourself a good night, and tomorrow night, as I say, I hope to have Vince on for a little bit of a discussion about a few of the things that have gone on this week, and might have another little announcement for you. Oh, shall we check very quickly how many tickets we have left in our draw? I think I may have miscounted earlier tonight when I said we've got less than 200. We had less than 250. Now we've got about 200 left. So if you would like to go and grab yourself a ticket and you haven't already done so, folks, you can buy up to 20 in each draw for $2 each. But if you have already bought your 20, then this link isn't going to help you very much. However, would love to have you in the next competition, which will start immediately we get a winner out of this one. And like I say, we will be going off to help, funds from that will be going off to help Sandy and Baz at the Good Samaritan Donkey Sanctuary as well. Thank you, folks. Be safe on the roads, because even at this time of the year when it's cold and freezing, you have dickheads on the road wearing those little furry caps over their ears that somehow must slip over their eyes.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's rock!